Today, we're going south to discuss the current housing market conditions in Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana. If you're new to my channel, I'm Todd Sachs, a real estate broker, educator, and housing market commentator. If you're interested in keeping up with what's going on in real estate, consider subscribing to my channel. And besides posting on YouTube, we're on every major audio podcast and social media platform as well. So let's dive into the data. But before we look at specific areas, I want to talk to you home buyers out there. Be very careful buying in this housing market. Do your research. Home prices are softening, and sellers who must sell are more willing to make a deal than we've seen in years. Home sellers are also spending money again to repair and replace items found in a good home inspection. And for your protection, always get home inspections. The housing market is not the same as just a year ago when the sellers in many of the U.S. markets ruled the roost. So know exactly what you're looking for and don't buy at the top of your budget. And please don't be pressured by that commission real estate agent pressuring you to buy now, telling you you're throwing your money away in renting. Believe me, be glad you're not one of the many regretful home buyers that bought purely out of FOMO, getting caught up in the exuberance of the bidding wars, overpaying tens of thousands for a home that at that time wasn't worth the purchase price. And now many of these buyers are at risk of being underwater on their mortgages. And what that means is that their home isn't worth what they owe. These homeowners are literally stuck unless they have the cash to lose should they need to sell their home in a downturn. So if you're looking to finally buy a home, get prepared. So let's look at fastcompany.com. They have an article that was published yesterday that says housing market shift where home buyers are taking power fast. Now, this information was published by housing data analyst Lance Lambert. He's the founder of a company called Resi Club. Resi Club is a data-driven real estate research and analytics company. Now, Lance is also a monthly contributor to a podcast, and we have a dedicated playlist on our channel for you to easily find Lance's updates. Now, we want to look at this map in this article to analyze what's happening with the 1-year shift in active housing inventory for sale. Now, this shift is based between July of 2024 and July of 2025. And as you can see, the entire country is now showing a year-over-year increase in active home inventory. Now, if you believe the law of supply and demand, this metric typically means that the more supply of something, the less the price. So let's take a look at the 4 states in particular that we're going over today. And we'll start with Louisiana. So Louisiana is showing a year-over-year inventory increase of 7.9%. Arkansas, the year-over-year change is 26.2%. Oklahoma, 20.3%. And then the biggest change here is Texas, the state of Texas, with a year-over-year home inventory increase of 24.1%. Now, when we're analyzing housing data, active inventory, the amount of homes on the market, how many days that home sits on the market, as well as the absorption rate of inventory, meaning if a certain amount of houses are active on a market based on the number of sales in that market, how many months of supply does that represent? And the reason why months of supply is important is because historically, when we have a 6-month supply of houses in a specific area, that is considered a balanced market, meaning that it's equally fair for the buyers and the sellers. Less than 6 months of supply typically favors the seller, and the opposite is also true. More than 6 months of supply favors the buyer. So let's take a look at this Fred chart for new home inventory in the U.S. You could see here, and we've got it on Max View. And by the way, this link and all of the links of what we're talking about today is below in the show details. It's a little cumbersome getting to it. You just have to find it right about where the comments are. It should say more, and you can open it up, expand it, and the links will be in there. Get familiar with it if you want to. If you're one of those that want to dive into the details. All right, so looking at this chart, as of June 30th, the Federal Reserve published new home sales inventory is at 9.8 months of supply. Now, let's analyze this for a minute. Back in 2022, you could see that we jumped to 10.6 months of supply. So just let me remind you of what happened in 2022. In the spring, the Federal Reserve started hiking rates, which affected mortgage rates, and buyers really cooled off. And prior to 22, when that spike of inventory happened as interest rates rose, the last time we have seen this type of inventory dates back to 2009, which was the great financial crisis or the housing market crash of that period. So what happened in 2022 as rates were starting to increase? Buyers really started to have more of a mortgage payment shock, and they were used to that 2.75% mortgage rate, and they cooled off. Builders started backing off on the homes that they were bringing out of the ground. Inventory continued through that period to decline. And in May of 2023, which was the spring market in 23, new home inventory dropped to 6.9 months of supply, still above what we consider a balanced market. So why did that new home inventory drop from July of 2022 until May of 2023? Well, there were many reasons. Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the show so far. I just wanted to take a brief minute and share some exciting news. I have just released my new Todd Simple home buying course. This course is designed for anyone wanting to know how to buy a home. It's designed to take you through the entire home buying process from start to finish. You'll learn how to represent yourself should you want to avoid paying real estate commissions, the best ways to shop for a home, how to avoid costly mistakes, what to look for when touring a home, negotiation tactics, and so much more. In this home buying course, I hold nothing back. In fact, I would go to say that no one has uncovered the home buying process like I have. I've even made a way for you to gift this course to your family and friends. Visit saxrealty.education. The link is also pinned in the comments below. Now back to the show. So why did that new home inventory drop from July of 2022 until May of 2023? Well, there were many reasons. Number one, buyers were cooling off because of the payment shock, and builders started backing off on the amount of homes that they were bringing out of the ground. And the big part here as to why the inventory was absorbed was because builders started offering rate buy downs. A lot of builders were offering 5.5%, 30-year fixed rate buy downs, or incentives for that buyer to buy back then. Now, the important thing to note here is that this chart reflects that new home inventory has been increasing ever since. And this is despite many home builders still offering the rate buy downs and offering price cuts and other incentives for home buyers to buy the home. This chart shows us that buyers are simply waking up to the reality of their own personal financial situation, and the sales incentives and rate buy downs don't seem to be working as much. And based on the thousands of comments, calls, and emails from my audience, and now what we're seeing reported finally in mainstream media, I believe that home buyers simply want lower prices, not sales incentives. And they're no longer biting on the buy now or you'll be sorry later syndrome. Now let's take a look at this Federal Reserve chart for existing homes. You can also see that the existing home inventory in June was at 4.7 months of supply, not quite that neutral market, but that was June. We're in August now, but you can see that we are at inventory highs that we experienced again back in 2022 when the Federal Reserve started hiking those rates. And by the way, this chart should be a wake-up call for anyone selling or thinking about selling their home. I'm simply showing you the data. Now you need to draw your own conclusion. So let's check out the data on those southern states. And by the way, if you're seeing this video weeks from when we published it and you don't see your state being covered, just check out our channel's homepage to find additional information and newer updates. We'll start with Arkansas. The Federal Reserve indicates that home inventory in Arkansas is at a pre-pandemic level. It has increased, not decreased, through the spring selling season, and this is typically when we would see inventory being absorbed the most. And Zillow's Arkansas Housing Report indicates a year-over-year change in values up 0.8%, which is very modest, certainly much lower than the rate of inflation. It also shows that since February of this year, prices are dropping. And yes, it seems to be ever so slightly, but they are going down. A few other metrics important to take note of is that 63.2% of the homes that were sold, the seller took less than list price. Now, let's address a few things about this data. Real estate is always backward looking. If you can see here, it says that as of May 31st, 2025, there's 63.2% of sellers taking less than list price. Now, the reason why real estate is backward looking is because if you buy a home today, it will take on average 30 to 45 days to close. And once the home closes or settles, that is when everyone finds out what you actually paid for the home. Also, when we're talking about list price, the final list price, where in this case, 63.2% of the sellers accepted less than that list price, in many cases, that list price that they accepted less for had already been cut at least once before accepting a contract. For example, if the original list price was $499,000, and the seller reduced it one time to $480, and they accepted an offer for $465, you may think, well, they only accepted $15,000 from list price. However, that's not true. They accepted actually $34,000 from what they had originally listed the home for. That's why, home buyers, it's very important to research a specific neighborhood that you're looking to buy in before you start seriously shopping for a home. Another metric that we'll look at here on the Zillow report is it takes a median 35 days that home sits on the market before it goes to pending status. And by the way, that's even subjective because a lot of the pending status contracts, or they accept the contract, they have been falling through for many different reasons, whether it's finance, buyers are waking up with remorse, or they're receiving a bad home inspection report that they simply walk away from, or that they can't seem to get negotiated through the seller. And by the way, those contracts falling through is probably the worst news, generally speaking, for a home seller. Now, let's check out Oklahoma. Zillow reports that Oklahoma is experiencing a year-over-year increase of 1.8%. However, since February, they too are experiencing a downward trend. 54.6% of sellers are taking less than list price, and it's taking 21 median days to pending. Now, the Federal Reserve is also showing a spike in inventory even higher than 2019. Now, let's have a look at Louisiana. This Fed chart indicates Louisiana is seeing 2020 level inventory, certainly a rising trajectory, and Zillow is showing a negative 1.4 year-over-year value decline. And look at this roller coaster model here of the up and down values. Again, though, since February, values are declining. 61.1% of sales are being sold under list price, and it's taking 32 median days to pending. Now, finally, let's take a look at Texas. Zillow says home values have declined 2.2% in 1 year, and prices have been dropping actually since July of 2024. 60.9% of sales sold under list price and 31 median days to pending. Now, you may say, but Todd, these prices aren't showing big drops. What you have to realize is that when you're buying a home, or selling a home, you need to look in a specific region, even a specific subdivision, because some regions and subdivisions are experiencing massive price declines and others are very modest. However, what I'm showing you here is more of a macro look. It's important to know that home values are falling. Generally speaking, in many states, the housing market is weakening big time. And remember, guys, I told you this back in 2022, that the prices were unsustainable, that the amount of exuberance would completely exhaust, and it did. It's happening, and now we're seeing the correction that I've been telling you was coming. I can't tell you how many calls or emails or comments that were made on the channel from these housing market cheerleaders that say home prices only go up, they never drop. Don't listen to what Todd's saying or any of the other people are saying about this not being sustainable. I hope now you're getting what I have been talking about for years. And then finally, let's take a look at this Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis chart that shows the current inventory, home inventory in Texas. They only started reporting this data back in 2016, July 2016. But the level of inventory in Texas right now has never existed. We are at historical highs in Texas right now since 2016. Thanks for watching. And if you're wanting to buy a home, please don't do it without getting my Todd Simple Home Buying course. It's the best way for me to help you. And in my opinion, it is so worth the $300 that you'll spend to help you navigate the home buying process, find the best home, negotiate with your agents and service providers, and so much more. The link is pinned in the comment section below, or you can simply go to sacsrealty.education. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked the video, you can let us know by smashing that thumbs up. And if you haven't already subscribed to our channel, please consider doing so now. Hit that alert bell. You'll know every time we upload content just like this. Keep those comments and questions coming. And one of the biggest compliments you can do for us all here at Sachs Realty is to share our channel and this video with your family and friends. This will help us to continue to build this amazing online community with viewers just like yourself. See you next time. Sachs Realty, Maryland broker number 607720, office number 443-318-4514, equal housing opportunity.